Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Wellbeing Show. I'm your host, Noel. If you wouldn't mind, it would be great if you would subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching it somewhere else. Do comment as well. I really want to get your feedback on what you think about these videos and these shorts and these reels, whether they're helpful or not and useful. And if you just want to pass on a message to Millie, who's my guest this morning, I'll pass it on to her, of course. That's enough from me. Sorry about the sell at the beginning, but I've been told that I have to do it now. Really great to have an organization on again called Thrive, who are one of my favorite organizations, I have to say. And Millie is from Thrive, and we'll learn more about them. But essentially, it's about making the case, getting people to understand just how positive gardening and therapeutic horticulture is as an activity. So I'm really delighted to have them back on. They produced a super press release recently around how useful this sort of activity is for people's health and well-being. That's enough from me. Hello, Millie. Thanks for joining me. It's really great to have you on.
Hi, Noel. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, well, it's like I say, it's my pleasure. I was telling you before we started recording that my experience as a mental health professional with therapeutic gardening and horticulture therapy goes right back into way back in the mist of time when dinosaurs still roamed the earth, and I was working on moving people out of institutional care into community care. And the institutions, bless them, there were problems, but one of the things they got right was every single one of them had a garden that produced food and flowers and was just there as an activity that every single resident in the hospital was allowed to be part of. And it was one of the most popular activities. And you could see the benefits it gave to people. And that thing of like, if you're in an institution, you don't feel great about yourself and your place in the world. And they were producing vegetables and fruit and herbs, and local people were coming in and buying them from them as a sort of as a farm, ongoing farm. And in the early days before we had to have farming markets, and so it really did, along with the health and well-being, really improve people's sense of status within themselves, their self-esteem. And I
Mhm.
suddenly remember as a kid growing things and being really excited by it. So that's me planting my flag about how much I love this stuff. So how long have you been involved in Thrive now, Millie?
So I've been involved in Thrive for 4 years, just over 4 years. And yeah, it's so nice to hear your incredible enthusiasm and background for it as well, because that is exactly what it's like here and working here. So I'm at our head office now, which is kind of near to Reading. And I can see, the sunshine outside, and I can hear the sounds of the client gardeners kind of going about their business. And I know that, even though it's January, a little bit of sun's come out, so they'll be wandering to their plots. They'll
Yeah,
be clearing up the debris. They'll be doing a bit of mulching, and you
yeah.
just hear this like happy chatter in the background all the time as they're working on the plots and the difference that it makes. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely appreciate hearing how you've got exactly the same passion for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so before we dive into it and I get to know more about you and the press release and so on, just give us a sort of overall broad brush picture of what Thrive is, its story, why it came about, what it does.
Yeah, totally. So Thrive is the Gardening for Health charity, and the whole aim and goal for Thrive is to use therapeutic horticulture. Well, it's actually the long name, social and therapeutic horticulture, which is a little bit of a mouthful. And so it is really about all of those amazing therapeutic properties of gardening. Yes, I mean it's one of the nation's favorite hobbies. And there's probably a lot of people who would say, I love gardening. I like being out in the garden. It makes me feel good. But there's also masses of research that goes behind that it really does have these incredible therapeutic properties, whether that's mental health or physical health. And that's really where Thrive comes in, not only to have Thrive Gardens, which there's 3 of, where people can come and join a Thrive program, but to get the word out about therapeutic horticulture as a form of well-being for people. Because everyone will have different things that work for them and appeal for them, but actually therapeutic horticulture can benefit loads of people,
Yeah.
and also to train people up. So yeah, really, it's just wanting to use that amazing power of gardening,
So
and support
you
people
hold a
from
database of information and research, you've got training programs, and then you've got spaces that people can use that are therapeutic gardens. And then
yeah.
you do an information bit as well, don't you? Which is trying to outreach into people into their own homes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because where we've got the 3 physical Thrive Gardens, one which is near Reading, one in Birmingham, one in Battersea Park. But obviously the potential is much wider than those.
Oh,
So that's why we have the training side. So we can try and have therapeutic horticulturists who will set up projects and run that all over the country.
yeah,
But for some people, then you might not need or want to go to a garden, but can use gardening for your own well-being at home. And that's kind of my part of it, which is giving that information.
yeah,
And there'll be lots of different situations. Maybe someone's got a new or an ongoing illness, which might need that they have to adapt what they do and want some information, or someone who's, considering starting out using gardening for the first time and doesn't know where to begin, or just giving a bit of encouragement and information about all the amazing different things that you can do.
mm,
Um, I think for some people, the traditional idea of gardening can be not off-putting, but not everyone has a traditional garden space or
sure.
might have the knowledge. But also try and let people know that gardening is so much wider than, having tending flower beds and having that traditional gardening, that
Yeah,
you can garden if you've got a windowsill,
yeah.
or if you've got a patio, or if you've got somewhere to put a house plant. So,
And
you know,
also there's things like community gardens, like so not far from me.
yeah,
There's a walkway between an adventure playground and a road, and a local charity has taken that over, and they've planted over the years fruit trees, and they've now got a space for bees, and they've got a space for wildflowers that are at risk. They've got another space for beetles, and this is just in a walkway, and it's tended by them, but it's also they get local kids from local schools involved, and it's organized along those routes. So there's those types of opportunities as well, I think.
yeah, definitely. And if people are that way inclined, then allotments, if you can find
Yeah,
one and get yourself through a waiting list,
yeah.
then
And
yeah,
also my local climbing wall does that as well. It's got an outside space where it's growing vegetables, it's growing fruit. It's just now putting in some spaces for bees and wasps in particular. Wasps get a bad name, I think. So I'm glad to see wasps being given a home by people because they're quite important as part
yeah,
of the ecosystem. And again, this thing seems to be happening. We're naturally doing it, but it's not accidental, I don't think, and neither is Thrive. There is a reason for this, isn't there, about the research that's been going on, and the need to curate that research, which I feel is a very important part of Thrive. Is there anything you can tell us about that? Is that available to people or?
yeah, absolutely. So for our training team as well, then people can always ask and research. There's some that we have on our website. When people come with like more of a professional capacity, we've got a whole therapeutic horticulture information center part of it, which has got a lot of research on there. So that's if you want a really deep dive. But there's also kind of nuggets that we share throughout the information service side of it as well.
Yeah,
And I think, as you say, it's a vast and growing amount of
yeah,
research behind it. And especially as I think people's lives get a bit more urban,
yeah,
then I think there's been a big reason. So we know that the access that people have to private garden spaces has gone down, or gardens have got
yeah,
smaller.
yeah,
So I think, having that research that shows sometimes, there's really surprising outcomes. Like there's things which have shown that just being able to look through the window and see something green
yeah,
can be better. If someone's recovering, then
yeah.
they can potentially recover faster just from seeing something green out the window, which is absolutely
It is
amazing.
quite, it is very powerful. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole branch of architecture now called biophilic architecture, which is looking at creating natural shapes in buildings, because even just a natural shape will affect that bit of our brain that feels positive about these things. So there is a growing body. And like in my company, for example, I told you we have a horticulture therapist that goes to see one of my patients who has severe and enduring mental health problems, schizophrenia. And there's growing evidence that doing these types of activities reduces the level of medication for somebody in that type of situation. And that is only a benefit to that person, all those people in that cohort, but also it, very simply, it saves us money because we're paying less in medication, right? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and on that note, I mean, I believe it's correct in saying that GPs will refer into your service. They will suggest to patients that they go along to Thrive and get involved. Can you tell us about that? Is that real? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, they absolutely can do. So if a GP, has already sort of knowledge and some connection to this, then they absolutely can refer people in. And in some cases, there might be a social prescriber
Yeah,
or link worker who, again, has kind of got awareness of green care and this kind of sector.
yeah,
Because it's not consistent everywhere, this is something that we really want to raise awareness of too.
yeah,
It's coming from every angle for, so that individuals could go in and say, actually, is there any way that I could get access to a project like this?
yeah.
And then hopefully to help with all nationwide GP awareness, because yes, absolutely.
So
They
tell
can
me, you
refer.
used a term that people might not be familiar with, this idea of social prescribing in connection with the GP. Can you say a bit more about what that is so people are sort of informed by it?
Yeah, it's really so that forms of treatment or
Treatment is a fine word. I
yeah,
would agree with it.
yeah,
So,
I don't really want to, I'm trying not to sort of medicalize it in some ways,
yeah,
but it's ones which are sort of alternative, more based off your interests and things out in the community that would be right for you. And I also mentioned green care, which is where horticultural therapy sits. Something like care farming is also another type of green care, really working with the environment.
yeah,
So it's saying that actually the benefits that I can get from a garden, or in this case, care farming, might do as much for me as potentially taking a CBT course. We're never trying to say, don't do this, do that. It's
no,
all part of
exactly.
the total toolkit, what works for you, piecing everything together. By contrast, people might have heard of blue care, which, for some people would be going out surfing and having
Yeah,
access to the sea. If that's
sure.
if that's the thing that actually, it lifts your spirits, that improves your mental health. So it's finding these um, alternative activities that are a genuine, proven part of your well-being and
Yeah.
your route to get better.
And it tends to be, I think, that like social prescribing is something you should be able to get through your GP. The word prescribing should indicate what it's about. So rather than a pill prescription, which you may get alongside it, which is fine, you may get another prescription, which is to go and join an activity or group. So, for
Yeah.
example, I got back into my health and well-being regime some years ago now because my GP prescribed membership of a gym to me
Yeah.
as a way of encouraging me. And now I pay for my own gym and it's a very
Mhm.
important part of my life, etc. But that was a good example of it. Other examples might be local walking groups for older
Yeah.
people to reduce loneliness and reduce some of the psychological and physical problems that so like this sort of therapeutic horticulture and green care, as you've described it, is a serious part of the healthcare package in the UK, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that social bit that you spoke about just then as well, that's really important as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Now we're having a chat which is
yeah,
about gardening, and I'm sure, from both sides, it's like just thinking about it and talking about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's a positive experience because it's something that we both love.
yeah,
So it's the same when people come to our Thrive Gardens. Quite often, one of the really big things they speak about is that emotional connection when they
yeah,
come as well. They're with other people, even, if someone starts working slightly on their own. There's little interactions, you know, sharing that excitement when you've grown something or what you're doing or pointing it out. It's these things which is so important. And yeah, it really is like such a valuable part of someone's overall well-being and toolkit. And even if you're doing that at home, we're always trying to emphasize the ways you can connect with someone, even if you like to garden on your own in your home. You
Yeah.
know, whether you're taking a photograph of something or whether you're just having a chat to someone next door about what you've seen
Sure.
and you're growing. There's so many moments where you can get that social interaction, which again, I think is another important thing in this time when there's so many ways that it takes us away from social interactions with other people. You know, having something you can really connect over
Yeah.
is just so valuable.
And it, for me, fits into the broader sense of asset-based work. So, deficit-based work, the old healthcare model, somebody's ill, they get treated, they go to a special place, they get treated, they come back. Nobody sees that process. Maybe they don't come back, maybe they go somewhere else, but it isn't necessarily a broader commitment, or investment in the broader community. Whereas in this approach, you're giving a legacy to the community, and also you're modeling ways of being healthier to other people. So people see you ill, they see that you go and do some gardening, it maybe inspires them to go and think about it themselves, and it has that sort of virtuous circle asset-based approach.
Yeah.
So I was interested, why I asked you on was the press release
Yeah.
that your organization sent out, which was really important, I thought. Do you mind if we talk about that a little bit? Have you got it with you? And we can.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you produced this press release pointing out the fact that there are so many people struggling with psychological distress at the moment as a result of many things. And clearly, we can't build 500,000 psychiatric wards. That's not going to happen. And neither would it be desirable. And also, clearly, we can't retrain another 10,000 psychologists, and neither would that be desirable. But I guess the point you're making with your press release is that there are alternatives to this that can be pointed out to people. So do you want to run through the release and what you said?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it was really a call to a call to arms to
Yeah,
talk more about the health benefits of gardening. So that was the whole sort of purpose of the release, because we're so passionate about advocating about Thrive, and we want to talk about it from every angle. Um, so from this one in particular, as well as talking about the therapeutic benefits, then really wanted to talk about all of the information and advice that's available to people on Get Gardening.
yeah,
But yes, yeah, as kind of we said in the release, then there's so many ways that we've seen that gardening can support people in our own gardens
yeah,
when we ask people who use our site and who join our free gardening club online.
yeah,
So we know that this is here.
yeah.
We've had this information and we just wanted to get it able to be widely accessed. So
Okay.
it's that sort of call to say that, this is here.
Yeah.
There's
So what sort
implement.
of things are you encouraging people to do in terms of the Get Gardening approach?
So for people who we have a lot of guides, growing number around a really wide range of different health needs.
Yeah,
So for example, if there's someone who would have arthritis or a lung condition, or dementia, or supporting someone with any of those,
yeah,
we have a lot of guides which have been co-created with different charity partners who've
yeah,
really helped to review from that side and make sure the information is sound, and also a lot of tips from our own community, our own members, to really kind of share lived experience. So we want anyone for who that might resonate and be useful to think, actually, I can still do gardening, or I could start doing gardening. I think if there's anyone who's experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, I guess it's the think, could there be a way that nature and gardening could help? I'm interested to explore this to see if there's something for me. Um, quite recently, actually, a few months ago, we released two new guides. One was on gardening to support people with autism, and one to
Okay.
support ADHD, because we see that
Yeah.
there's a real growing need there. Now more people are getting diagnosed, particularly adults. Greater awareness, greater understanding, greater information. So
Yeah.
we asked our community, our gardening club, to really share their experience and their tips. So,
Yeah.
that's, for example, something we've released recently. And I think what's nice in combination is the fact that, great, this information is there for other people, but it also then allows people who can relate to it to feel seen, to feel heard, to think, yeah, this is for me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that on and use it. So I think that's a big part of it, is us wanting to let people know that this is there, it's free.
Sure.
And please, go find it, see if there's something that
Yeah.
is useful for you and might help you just spend a little bit more time connecting with nature, like however
Yeah.
short that might be.
And as you say, you're not defining a garden as a physical plot of land that you have attached to your home. You're defining it as engaging consciously or intentionally with some horticulture activity around your home. It's that is probably more accurate, I guess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So don't want people to be put off by the fact that the word horticulture is in there,
Yeah.
because there's many activities you can do which are about tending and nurturing plants, but there's also so much you can do with a connection to nature, which is also would make you feel really good, and also connection to wildlife as well, which is hugely important for a lot of people.
Yeah, in
Um,
Hackney, where I live, there's been a growing movement around having bees and beehives, and there's all sorts of beehives on people's roofs and stuff like that. And like I say, there's lots of new places growing up with homes for wasps and beetles, and all of
yeah,
this sort of stuff is, I guess, part of it. In terms of I mean, I'm really interested in the autism and the ADHD. So, like ADHD, for example, most people don't know that it's very common for people with ADHD to have difficult to treat depression and anxiety. And we know there's a mountain of evidence that any natural activity, any gardening activity, is really good for those mood disorders. So it's really exciting to have that coming out. Where
yeah.
did the motive for that come from? Was it members or yourselves?
Yeah, it was quite largely driven by members. So
Right.
we've got our gardening club who we send newsletters to, and we ask them a bit, every year about, what they like about themselves, and actually what had come back. It was that there was quite a lot of people who would really have valued this information. We
Yeah,
realized within our own membership, there's a lot of people who this would be useful for. And
yeah,
then, from the wider picture, of media and the awareness there. And we thought actually this is really important,
yeah,
yeah, in terms of the scale, and where we can help and
yeah,
do that. But it was, and you're totally right about the mood boost bit, because what we tend to find is whenever we ask almost any group of people the ways that which gardening helps them, the thing that comes out top almost every single time is the way that it supports mental health.
yeah,
Whatever the initial sort of health need might be, it's the mood boost, and it comes out so highly with every
yeah.
group.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I
there's
think we can never
research,
take,
there's tons of research around this. So, for example, when you build a park in an urban area, violent crime around the park drops by 20%. Things like this. It's just such a powerful tool,
yeah,
just to be around nature. So we're going to broadly talk about nature in that urban space. There's also something I think about people creating something and nurturing something. If you can't have an animal, you definitely can have some plants in your home.
yeah,
I think people get the same sense of benefit of giving love to something and caring for something. And that silly thing where we say people are talking to their plants. It's not silly at
hmm
all, is it? It's
yeah,
actually a great thing to do.
yeah, or naming your plants.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, We definitely, it's more so with houseplants. For some reason, people seem more inclined to name their houseplants
Yeah.
than the ones out in your garden. But there's no reason why you couldn't. If you got a tree or a shrub or something out in your garden, you could give
I
that
tell
a
you
name.
what, take a child with you somewhere where there's lots of plants and say, give me some names, and you'll have them in no time at all, because the kid will understand just how much fun that is. Um,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I think about this is that it's what I would call a self-motivating activity, because it's such a pleasure to do that when you're doing it, there's no effort or motivation needed, which is really important. In terms of the autism, I'm interested in that because obviously there are growing number of diagnoses, but also what people are not aware of. Is that things like the Mental Health Act was changed this year. So fewer people with autism are going to be locked up in hospital. That's the truth. And so we're going to have to find community resources to meet that need going forwards. And I totally agree with the change to the Mental Health Act, because we shouldn't be putting people in hospital just because they're neurodiverse. Yet the lack of services, and we can't really expect local authorities to suddenly invest another £500 million each authority in social care. It's not going to happen, is it? So
Mm.
it's very exciting to me to see these community-based things spontaneously growing. And I guess for me, that's why certainly the voluntary and charitable sector is so important, and we need to really invest in it. That thing that you said about, well, we asked people what they wanted and they told us and we did it. That's just great.
Yeah, it sounds simple, doesn't it?
It
But
does. Try and get a social services department to do that. Forget it. It's not going to happen, right? Try and get your local authority to do it. Forget it. But an organization like Thrive, and this is why Thrive and that sector is so important, I feel.
yeah. And I think one of the thinking about groups like particularly people with ADHD and autism, another one of the things that really came back from gardening and people said several times was the non-judgmental. And I think that was something that people said time and again that they loved, is that
Yeah.
whatever they might sometimes face with human contact, you go into a garden and it just lets you be yourself. You can do it the
That
way
sort of
that you
leveling of
want.
the power type thing, and the peer,
Yeah,
we're all in this together. And yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely. But you
exactly.
have a background in horticulture, don't you? That sort of, and you were saying how excited you are to be now in this aspect of it. Can you tell us a little bit about you? Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I don't have a trained background in horticulture, but gardening is something which has been um, kind of in my DNA, I think, since I was little. So, I'm from Dorset.
Yeah,
A lot of my family are from farming backgrounds.
yeah,
So, I've grown up with going to visit grandparents and shelling peas and, picking apples
yeah,
and going down to little allotments. So it's something that I've always known is something through the generations and that you do, and it's joy
yeah,
and it's produce and it's space. And we've always had, whether it's small or something like that, we've always had a garden that was tended and
yeah,
flowers grown. So I've grown up, even if I had times when I've been in small flats
yeah,
myself, it's kind of it's there, it sits, and you think gardening is good for you. I've worked now in horticulture, so I've got a content writing background. That's where I come from, but I've worked in horticulture now for quite a number of years.
right.
I was in it more from the kind of the garden centre nursery angle, but now that I've been in Thrive for a while, because it's just that therapeutic and the power to do good with it. It's
Yeah.
just so important.
Yeah. I think
Um,
what excites me about it is I've known, and lots of us like yourself have known how important this stuff is. Now we've got the evidence to win the argument with. I'm like, great, give me the evidence. That's what I like about Thrive. It's like you've got all the evidence together and you've gone, here you go, to the people who need the evidence. Now leave us alone, let us do it. Let us have fun.
yeah, I know.
Because that's what it's about,
Because
right?
Yeah, and of course you have to present it. In some ways, it'd be great if everyone could just come down to our gardens and
Yeah,
experience it. You know, we have lots of volunteering groups, corporate volunteers, and they always go away saying what a wonderful day that they've had, and what a refreshing change it was, and a break from the office and all the rest. So obviously it's great that we've got the evidence for it. But in a way, if everyone could just go out and garden, and hopefully you'd just feel
yeah.
that it does the thing that research showed.
Yeah, it really does. And you're a sort of great example of it because I can see how happy you are with what you're doing. And just being around a group of people involved in health and well-being activities does empower us and make us feel better, lifts our mood and our health and well-being improves. Um,
Mhm.
so it's really exciting to talk to you. If people want to get hold of Thrive, if people, I presume that as an organization, if somebody wanted to set up a similar type of garden where they are, they can go to you for consultancy and support and evidence and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if someone's on that journey, so we've got an in-house training team.
Right.
So we run a number of courses, from short ones and ones for specific organisations, or work with schools or care homes. So you can always approach and see what's there. There's also much longer courses for anyone who's wanting to work in therapeutic horticulture and wants depth about it. But the training team are always there for a conversation.
Yeah.
If someone's interested in finding out more about this, and as you say, thinking of setting up their own garden,
Yeah.
then always there to start a discussion and talk about that side. So yeah, always delighted to hear from anyone who wants to incorporate therapeutic horticulture into a project they're doing.
Brilliant. And again, I think this is one of the wonderful things about this sector is that there's no sense of ownership and possession. There's it can always grow. We're never going to run out of patients. We're never going to run out of gardens. We're never going to run out of plants. The more
Yeah.
the merrier, as it were.
Completely. I think it goes hand in hand with the whole gardening ethos. Gardening is such a sharing activity.
Yeah.
Gardeners don't kind of hoard the things that they're doing. Always want to talk about what you're doing and what you're growing. And that's kind of the same as the sector is we're not kind of, guarding the gardens in secret. It's about
I
that
think
sharing.
it is important, and I might labour the point because I think the issue we have is there's a lot of scarcity or perception of scarcity around at the moment in terms of services, service
Yeah.
provision, that deficit-based approach, which I'm not criticising, it's just a fact, but there's a scarcity mindset. We don't have enough. Whereas this mindset is there's more than enough. In fact, there's more. We've got bountiful, huge cornucopia of resources that are just there and available. Pick them up and use them is the attitude, right?
Yes, exactly. We've got this information. Please come and read
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
ask us questions.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not like nature is owned by anybody. Do you know what I mean? It's just there and available. So step
no,
into it.
no, exactly, exactly. And that's for a lot of people, that bit of stewardship of nature is also something which is really important. We've had more people recently who flagged things around climate anxiety, actually. So that's something that we've heard
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
over the last few years has come up as something which worries people.
yeah.
And so then you've got the opportunity of gardening, as you say, no one owns nature, but you can steward it. And that might, if you're worried about the climate, then doing what you feel is good in your garden, it might help alleviate that, the feel that you're doing something positive.
And
Uh,
also, I think, particularly for younger people, because we know that climate anxiety is very much affecting children. Understandably so. And again, I can see quite intuitively and easily how that would, as a parent, that's a really positive, productive way of supporting your child who might be anxious about these things. They see this
yeah,
stuff on the news. Well, let's rather than just verbally talking about it, let's go to the local farm, let's go to the local park, let's set up a plot of land, let's buy some plants,
yeah.
let's steward and nurture nature itself.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you're there with your child in a small space, let's put something which is bee friendly in a little pot.
Yeah.
Can we squeeze in a bird feeder? Is there somewhere that we can put a little pile of something for wildlife to go under, and then can you look at it and see if there's some insects there, or the
But
little.
the other thing is just around this whole notion of, the cost of living crisis. And, it can be expensive to go to your local gardening centre and buy loads of plants. But here's a little tip. If you walk past the garden, you see somebody in it, and you start having a conversation with them about how beautiful their garden is, they're going to be throwing cuttings at you. You won't be able to stop them, I promise you. Like,
Yeah,
there's no way they're going to charge you for that. They're going to be delighted. They'll be giving you whole plants. They'll always have spare pots lying around because every garden has a million spare pots they don't know what to do with. And particularly if you rock up with your kids to maybe a more elderly person,
mhm,
you've just made a friend for life, folks. You really have. And you've
yeah,
got access to a garden and all the knowledge all the time. And that stuff I think is invaluable. You can't quantify that.
yeah, yeah. You're totally right. Gardeners always grow too much, optimistically. So.
I've got loads of pots lying around, so I don't know what to do with them. But there you go. Look, Millie, it's been super to have you on, and it's been super to try and promote and support the work of Thrive and the work that you do. It's really, really important reaching out to people. How do people get hold of Thrive? What you're involved in? Where's the best place to go?
So if they head over to Thrive website, which is thrive.org.uk,
Great,
and then there's whatever side of it is that they are interested in, whether it's finding out about therapeutic horticulture training or heading to the Get Gardening side of it. Everything's really clearly signposted from the top. So that's kind of the source of everything.
great.
And then if they want to contact us from there, we're always happy to hear from people.
Super. You've got plenty of cuttings to give to people, no doubt.
Yeah, it's like, well, but yes, soon the real seed sowing season will
Yeah,
kick
no,
off.
it's on the way, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, and
It's
our
okay.
glasshouses will be absolutely chock-a-block with seedlings soon, which
Great,
is yeah, it's a
great.
delight.
Right. Listen, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. So gardening, nature, bring it into your life is the message,
Yes.
however you do that, doesn't really matter. Just bring it in. I've got some plants here and I'm sort of well known for being a total mass murderer when it comes to plants, but I keep trying. That's the important
Yeah,
thing.
that's all right too. We
That's all
always
right too.
try and encourage people. If you slightly destroy some stuff along the way, that's fine.
That's right. Nature, Mother Nature will survive and she'll forgive us.
Yeah.
That's fine. So you stay there. Bye bye for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Do get hold of Thrive. And do if you're thinking about somebody that you love, one way you can help them, for example, is you can start the activity. You don't necessarily need to push them into the health and well-being activities. You start bringing nature into your life. You're bringing health and well-being into your life and that of your loved ones. That's the way this works. And you don't need to worry about it. Just get going. Hope to see you all at the next show. But for now, we're going to end there.